Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Creator to Creators today. Today, we have a special guest.
Hi guys, it's Georgii Speakman. Lovely to be here, babe.
I'm so happy to see you. You look great.
Thank you, likewise. You always do,
Thank.
though.
Well, I try. I cleaned up for you. So,
I appreciate it, babe.
tell me, I know about you. I know everything about you. Everything. Just kidding. Can you tell the guests, people that are listening, what was your childhood like, and how did you kind of find your way into the entertainment world?
Ooh, that's a big question, Meosha. Well, what was my childhood like? Complicated, painful, hurtful, frustrating, but also amazing. I think we all go through different hardships, just to different degrees. I think relative to my environment, I did face a lot of hardship and challenges from not just parents divorcing, but just, controversies within the home without disclosing all the juicy details, and really struggling to find my place within the home environment, but also like where I grew up and all those kinds of things. Quite frankly, I actually popped out of my mother's womb, singing, dancing, acting, writing, like doing anything and everything I could creatively. And I think that's probably where I was able to, survive, express myself, exercise different, passion areas and points that I had. I mean, I used to make little mixtapes and dance in my bedroom for hours on end as a kid. I used to make up theatre shows when all the kids were playing outside. I used to sit and write my mum's typewriter from the age of 5, wow, typing away on like the world around me and what was happening at school as a kid. All those kinds of things. Started dancing, doing dance classes from ballet to, Brazilian samba, jazz, all the different sort of hip hop, like all the different genres. And then sort of continued my own journey with creativity, very passionate about writing, graphic design, and just art, period, and voyeurism. A lot of voyeurism, pushing my own boundaries and challenging what I could, what was on the other side. Okay, that's the wall there. I want to see what's on the other side. I was always like pushing myself and challenging my own environment from that perspective. And then I think as I got a bit older and started, completing study, I did do a business communications degree and a film and television degree, where I really got into filmmaking and all that kind of stuff then. It was I kind of landed in like corporate jobs in Sydney in Australia to survive financially. And it was always a mission on how do I get myself out and off this corporate rat wheel that I felt quite trapped by. I'm like, this surely can't be life. Like getting up at 6, being at the office at 7:30, working till 8, 9, 10, 11 at night. And I'm like 23. And I'm like, and then often Saturdays. And I'm like, this is no life for a creator. And it's, suddenly you don't have the time, place, or space to really express yourself creatively because you're just on this rat wheel of survival in this corporate machine. And so it was really about how do I get off that, that rat wheel, that capitalist driven rat wheel. And I started doing acting lessons. And I was like, what's another avenue I can find to start expressing myself and exploring forms of art and storytelling, expressing. And I just found acting. So I pursued that for a while and did a number of different, films, lead roles in feature films, small roles in TV, short films, all that kind of stuff. And then went off to Hollywood. And it was always this mission to get to America. How do I get to America? From the age of 5, I was like, Mummy, Daddy, I'm going to live in America. I'm going to be famous. I'm never going to die. By the age of 12, I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to move to America. By 15, I'm like, if you don't send me to America, I'm going to kill myself. I went on a school exchange and landed in bumfuck, excuse my language, nowhere in South Carolina.
Wow.
And there was this mission to get to America. So for me, in my mind, the creative universe existed in America, was on that other side of the wall, of the fence, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't Australia. So first trip to Hollywood, seriously, to get representation in 2010, and then realized, having landed, innovative artist and a great manager in LBI Entertainment, I was like, oh shit, well, you never can control what you're doing. And I was like, I've been in business for enough years now to know that like I need to be able to control what I'm doing, and I'm a natural business person. I don't think I can survive waiting tables as an immigrant in America, right, doing the creative stuff.
Right.
And so through numerous visa challenges and all the different things, I finally made it to America, but in a business capacity. And so it's always been that mission of like, how can I sustain my creativity? What does that look like to me? I don't want to be a struggling actor waiting tables on a visa where I can't do odd jobs because it's essentially illegal.
Right.
And I do know a lot of Aussie actors somehow get away with different bits and pieces and things, but I just wasn't prepared to take that risk. I also didn't want to have to work 7 days a week just to be able to pay my bills. And so it's been this long-standing journey of what does and trying to find creativity amidst business opportunities as a matter of financial, mental, emotional, and creative survival. Yeah. And it's just had to chip away bit by bit, and eventually started my own business, my own record label, obviously finished my book, which has taken me 10 years. And it's just been this ongoing journey to realize, like, what does creativity mean to me? How can I express myself? What satiates my heart and soul? Right. Whilst I exist in this capitalist, money-driven world where I can still survive, grow as a human being, grow as an executive, but maintain that creativity. So I hope that answers. That was a long answer, but it's a long journey for creative sustenance, as I'm sure everybody and yourself knows, on how to survive.
Dude, you do. Holy moly. Like, you've done it all. I think, are you naturally curious?
Oh, extremely. Very voyeuristic by nature. And I think most creatives, you'd hope, or you sort of assume, are naturally pretty curious, because creativity is obviously realized through so many different platforms, mediums, outlets, all the different things. But as a creator, you have to constantly work out what that looks like to you, what it means to you. And you can only do that by asking questions of yourself, others, the world around you, and then do your best to work it out.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, Jesus, I think I work hard, but no, you take the cake, honey. I am like blown away from like just your interest. Like, that's amazing that you persevered despite of the obstacles that you faced. I mean, the fact that you started your own like record label, like, how, first of all, how did you know how to start that? Where did you get the know-with-all? Like, did you just like talk to people?
It's a great question, because I look back and I just think, fuck, sometimes I think I'm so crazy. And I am a bit crazy for sure. I think you've got to be a bit crazy to probably push the boundaries as much as I have in all areas of my life, but like, and nowhere near as much as others, but relative to my environment, upbringing, it's been a lot. I started the business to represent micro-influencers. So the business is Outlier, to represent micro-influencers that work on both sides of the camera, working with brands, doing brand campaigns, influencer deals, like a whole range of things in that space. And then I happened to be at South by Southwest in 2019, and at my entertainment attorney's drinks mixer. And he was like, and I just stumbled across this man who I just thought to be quite vivacious, very outgoing Jewish guy, big talking New York Jew, which I love. And it was often so much fun, right? It was hard it was hard to miss him. Right. We ended up completely hitting it off and sitting outside on the balcony, drinking and just talking about everything. And he said, why don't you start your own record label? Because I was obviously working with musicians and artists at the time as well, and doing a lot in the music space, and having had always a passion for music. And I was like, I was thinking of starting Outlier Records in 3 to 5 years' time. He was like, well, I mean, what are you waiting for? And I was like, I don't know, actually. And if I knew what it took to start a label, I would have said a lot of things, actually. I'm waiting for more finance. I'm waiting for like all these different things. I basically got on the plane. I put a pitch deck together.
Wow. From
Austin. It took me a few hours, touchdown in LA, press send, off the pitch went. And then a month later, I had the label on paper. And then I was like, well, now what do I do? Now what do I do? And then I was like, well, I can't sign artists. I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars in the bank to either break new talent and or fund or bankroll like established names. What am I going to do? Try and steal them from like Warner or like? So I established. I basically taught myself everything. I had no idea how to run a label, but asked a lot of questions. I mean, you have a label manager within the Orchard, but I mean, you have to do everything yourself. And
I bet.
so I established a piano label, a brand or an artist name called Antithesis, and started writing my own piano albums in partnership with my producer friend, Phil Lewis.
Fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then really have a passion for piano because when you think about a lot of the oldest like and dopest like hip hop records and just it's often got a really amazing piano hook in it or like some keys. There's always look at Alicia Keys, look at like the piano is just an amazing instrument. So I thought that's a safe place, a space to start. I ran it by Jason and he was like, we don't actually have much or any sort of classical or piano on the label, the Orchard. And I also was like, well, what's a safe and really cool place to innovate and do content and collaborations? It was like lo-fi beats, lo-fi hip hop. So I started workshopping my albums to have them reproduced by different lo-fi beat producers from all over the world. And so we've since now collaborated with like a dozen different lo-fi beat producers from around the place. So a lot of the beat-driven instrumental records and albums that you hear on the label were original piano albums by Antithesis that have been reproduced by other producers around the world. Blunt One, Seth Zillner, Andrew Tuttle, Mint Hayes. There's been a lot from literally all over the world, like Australia, Miami, LA, Hungary, Japan, like even Germany, like all these different places. And so that's really the crux of the label. And I basically creative direct and produce all the content, which was great because it reactivated my passion for film, but short form content. And, everything else, but was really like learning on the job and just going, I've got to make this work. What do I do? And just literally figuring it out. Now I'm a lot quicker, sharper, faster in like working out sort of whole deals and like the flow of work and uploading records to the SoundClouds, Bandcamp. Obviously, the Orchard being the global distributor, handle all the global distribution. I was doing my own digital marketing campaigns, but the Orchard are amazing because they've got an inbuilt digital marketing team, so you can put a budget against releases and all the things, and they'll just manage it all for you. And it's been really fun. So it's like my baby, and we just became a global publishing company as well in partnership with Sony Music Global. And we're also launching the lifestyle brand, like the streetwear brand really soon as well, which is cool.
That's exciting, dude. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Like, I love hearing about everything that you do because it just also it inspires me like to just go harder. You know, it's like, man, like, thank you. Because I sometimes, in this industry, when you're independent and you're pushing yourself, it kind of you do get a little discouraged sometimes. You're just like, oh my God, like I'm getting older. Time is
Oh my God, the self-negative talk and self-deprecation is very real amongst us creatives.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think that I'm one of those freaks that will just throw herself in the deep end, not having the knowledge or the information. And I learn by doing. I have to do it. So even if someone said, but don't you need lots of money? But don't you need this? But don't you need that? Or shouldn't you be da 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 da? Yes, probably. But I would prefer to actually do it and learn from doing. And that's how you make mistakes. That's where you learn and grow. I mean, you learn by doing. Like in the name of Nike, just do it. Like, so there's different types of individuals that some are more reserved and strategic and will take their time with something or whatever. I'm just one of those crazy people that will dive in the deep end and learn later and like work it out later and learn as I go. And maybe that's made me less successful in a lot of my endeavors because I haven't thought things through probably as well as I could have or should have. But that's just who I am. And quite frankly, I don't mind being that way because it's all experience, it's all learning, and it's all growth.
Absolutely, that's what it is. Wow, that's awesome. So I mean, obviously, I would love to talk more about your career, but I gotta get got to touch on your book that you written. Well, it'll be out when like next year probably.
So I think that's a realistic time frame. But I have never been very good at sticking to long-term projects. I'm very like, I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to make it happen. And I want the results yesterday. That's how
Right.
I was moved. And again, they're not necessarily great qualities or traits, honestly. Most successful people will tell you, oh, you've got to be patient. You've got to, da, 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 da. But I am legitimately proud of myself for having finished a book because it's taken me a decade to write. I
Mm.
think, I
Hmm.
think I'm coming back. Um, and I think I just, again, like always been an absolute passionate writer, like love my writing. It's been an escapism. I've been journaling since I was 14. I've got all these leather bound journals from my teenage years and 20s, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I just had this vision of LA Diaries. That was the original concept. And then as time has passed, I'm like, this is not about LA as much as it is all about America holistically. Yes, at least 7 years was spent in LA, aka Hollywood, Cali. But really, because the book took like a couple of different turns towards the end and became a little bit more political and got on subjects of race and racism in this country and lots of those other inverted commas taboo subjects that most people are afraid of really discussing and talking about. But I think it's mostly been this year and last year where I've really put my head down to just get it done because
Yeah.
I can't have this linger any longer and I'm clear on where I want to take it. You just got to get it done. So that's sort of where I'm at, and I'm having it read by different agents and managers and people out of LA. I've sent it off to a few publishing companies, so wish me luck that it generates some type of success, but maybe it won't. I don't know.
No, it definitely will. It definitely will. Like I like what when we were talking the other day, like about like just certain things in the. Oh, I'm back. Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
And the book about like just certain subjects you were talking about and covering. I mean, I commend you going there and like certain topics that you're talking about in your story, which is very real. And I think that's why it's going to be successful because you're not afraid to talk about these topics and be real. Like I think we're living in such a time now that people are too PC about things.
Oh, yeah.
I think we need to hear the raw truth, and I think people resonates with that. I mean, I do.
I mean, you always hope so, right? But one thing I still don't think I'm fully comfortable with, but all of us have to be,
Hmm.
which is criticism. And there's always my father used to always say to me, a third of people will like you or love you, a third will not have an opinion and sort of not care, and a third will not like you, will dislike you, hate you, whatever. And I think that's just sort of generally, for the most part, true-ish.
Yeah.
But yes, like what I've written is very raw, unfiltered, and honest. And they're just legitimately truthful experiences and accounts of the things I've witnessed, I've experienced firsthand, I've gone through, I've observed. Obviously, the American dream, once upon a time, came to LA with stars in my eyes. And, bit by bit, I mean, I hate to say it, but America has been really disappointing in a lot of ways. And I share with you, as a longtime friend,
Yeah.
I really just didn't believe or think that racism still existed, for example, especially in year 2013. So when I
Right.
came to America, I'm like, I'm coming home to my people, land of the free. I've always been, a country of, freedom of speech and all this stuff.
Hmm.
Because I've been such a mad music lover my whole life and really related to hip hop and leaned into the lyricism of hip hop as a form of survival growing up, loving African music and being so fascinated with that culture, but obviously particularly like African American, like black culture,
Right.
and thinking like, God, Australia's so white, so boring, so uptight, lacks depth, lacks this, like no, there's no color, there's no, and desperately wanting to get to America to, be around like black culture, black, brown people, like mixed people, just culture, period, diversity,
Hmm.
to just experience many rude awakenings.
Mm.
Many rude
That's,
awakenings.
that's unfortunate.
Yes. And I, upon hindsight, just realizing that how, unfortunately quite racist Australia is by nature, how by sheer nature I am considered to be white privileged, even though, you could argue, oh, but my upbringing hasn't been privileged in so many other vital, critical areas that make a human whole, and make them feel loved and safe and nurtured and all these things. Let's just say those pieces to the puzzle have, in many respects, been missing. I could go on and on about the stuff, but it's not about that. It's just about the recognition that there's still a big issue, a huge issue in this country with segregation, division, and obviously it depends and varies between states. If you've grown up in DC, your experience is going to be different to if you grew up in Miami versus Alabama versus, Wisconsin versus like California. Obviously, there's just so many different subcultures, subsections, perspectives. It's polarized by politics. I think there's huge amounts of indoctrination in this country. I think I wrote in my book from the age of 15 when I was going to Ridgeville High School in South Carolina, how the history, 90% of the classes were all history. And I remember even thinking then as a teenage girl, very naive, obviously, at that point, and probably still am to a lot of things, that a lot of the history classes and lessons were very much, in my opinion, taught through a lens of white supremacy. And I was just like listening, just thinking there were no black kids or brown kids or anything in the high school from memory.
Wow.
And thinking that was really white, and just like why are they, I was thinking, why are they so obsessed with American history? It was almost like Confederate, like lessons in Confederate,
Yikes.
Yeah. So anyway, so much to unpack on that subject, right?
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. Honestly, I always say that it's one of those things. Like, I think it's great to talk about these things. I think it's great to have the conversation. I think you have to be able to talk about these uncomfortable things in order to somewhat come to. I don't know if there's ever going to be a resolution to it, to racism ever.
I know. And you and me talked about that, right? Like we talked about what is the resolution, and do the majority of humans, whether you're white, black, brown, or somewhere in between, does everybody want a resolution? And they don't. And so it's a weird, excuse me, it's a weird thing, because a lot of people talk about how important, like, we want resolve, we want love. It's love that makes the world go round. Christianity is such a big religion in this country, and I quote a few things from the Bible in the book to say, listen, this is saying that we should treat all men equally and blah, 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 blah. Yet why is there still so much racism and division in the South? And if you're a white Bible-bashing Christian, how can you believe in Christianity and say that you're a man or woman of God and believe in all the things that lie within the Bible, yet be racist?
That part.
What's your answer? What's your excuse to that one? So what, you're just going to be selective with the Bible and select with your relationship with God? Because it doesn't work that way. If you're a devout Christian and you're going to be out in these streets preaching, who the hell are you to dare judge anyone else based on the color of their skin? It drives me crazy. And having moved from LA to Atlanta, and my friends, some friends that are actually born and raised Atlanta that happen to be black, did warn me that you're going to hate the white uptight people there. And I've seen it. I've experienced it firsthand.
Wow.
And it's wild to me. And it's even Atlanta as a city, there's a quote that goes around and a movement, which is Atlanta influences everything. But I think you and me touched on this the other day, spoken about this with friends, a lot of friends recently that are from here but have sort of national jobs, that there's still a lot of separation within this city. I've noticed that there's, black versus white, even a lot of scenes and in workplaces. Like there's more the black creators, creatives, doing cool things and whatever that might be sort of multi-hyphenate entrepreneurs or creators or whatever, business owners. But then you have the very white corporate side to Atlanta. And it seems that there's not huge amounts of integration like there would be in other cities like DC or even California or obviously New York and places like that. But then my friend who was here, he happens to be a black gay male that's grown up in College Park, which is a traditionally black neighborhood. He was here sitting right behind me at this table on the weekend, and he said that his mum gave him a hard time. Like, oh, you're out there eating all this white food, eating, all these white bougie places. And he was so upset and offended because he's like, why is me living my best life, eating in nice restaurants and eating really like good food or healthy food or whatever, have to be perceived as white? That pissed him off because he was like, shouldn't I be eating healthy or at nice places and restaurants? Shouldn't I be out there living my best life? And why I deserve to eat at these nice restaurants or whatever. And he was expressing to me how offensive he found that and how upsetting that was to him to hear that perspective. And that's just like one minute example of a lot of the different levels of conversation, understanding, perception, and prejudice, racism, all the things that, how do you unpack it? How do you get onto the layers of it all?
It's so many things, love. It's not, I think even with, in the culture of the African American culture, a lot of times I hear within my own culture people saying, well, we want what we were promised. I'm like, wait a minute. How about this? How about this? What if you never get it? That's just the world we live in. Like, yeah. And also, Native Americans about the land and all this stuff. And, there's so many things. So I always say, let's stop pointing the finger and blame. Like, yeah, I mean, you can talk about it until we're blue in the face. But I think we have to get it for ourselves. Work together, get it for ourselves, because it doesn't look like America is up to giving anybody anything. That's just what I see.
Trust me, that I am astounded, shocked at how difficult America makes life for its citizens. I am shocked from healthcare to just all the layers. You'd never, with all the hype, buzz, and global awareness of the American dream and what that promises, no matter, irrespective of who you are, whether you're an immigrant from Iran or Baghdad or Afghanistan or wherever, Haiti, doesn't matter. Sorry. But it's scary to me, and I still love this country. I still love America, and I still do believe that in many, many respects, it's definitely one of the greatest countries in the world. I really do believe that. It's so beautiful. It does have so much diversity and creativity and so many different types of people and opportunity. And there is all of that. There is, but I don't think that the country endemically makes it easy. And I think it controls its people through indoctrination and a lot of propaganda, through the media, politics, education systems. It's all reinforced continually through so many different things that take place in the world, like how much pollution was there in the media through the George Floyd death and controversies around other lives that have been lost. COVID and so many different things and narratives. Like Fox would say one thing, CNN would say they're completely opposite. And you're like, hang on a sec, this is our sources of information. What is it? Because you're saying one thing, you're saying another, and it's just the manipulation and all the things. So I think most of us are somewhat aware of those things. But to your point, you are right. We do have to work together. You have to just find who you can connect with and keep building and having the conversations to build awareness, camaraderie, irrespective of skin color, backgrounds, whatever. It's irrelevant because we're all human beings at the end of the motherfucking day. We're all made up of skin, heart, soul, mind, all the things. And so who are we to ever judge where someone's come from, the hardships they face. Like, everyone's got a story, and every single human being's story is relevant, and we just have to hear one another, try to keep, as corny as it sounds, it is true, try to keep coming back to love, to put our own white, it's not, I don't want to blame white, like entirely blame white people, but like sorry, I just said it again. Sorry. People's ignorance and, arrogance and all the things which we all have residing within ourselves. None of us are free, and you're crazy to think if you're free of ignorance and arrogance, you're not. We just have to constantly battle fear and ego, which all comes from our minds, and we can trace it back to the forms of indoctrination, environments that we were raised in, all the different things. And we just have to keep neutralizing conversations, neutralizing understanding perspectives, and keep trying to come together,
That's it. That's it. That's the solution I have. Like, there's no other solution. There's always going to be that person out there that just doesn't get it. And that's okay. You're just going to get the people that understand and just keep going.
Correct.
At that point.
Like, how lucky were we to find one another as friends? Like,
I know, dude.
Because, I'm, only a little bit older than you, quite a bit older than you, come from completely different backgrounds, upbringings, all the things, different parts of the world. Obviously, our skin colors are completely different. You and me.
Is it? I thought we were. Oh, okay.
I like to think.
You are black.
Yeah, that's right.
Guys, this is how we talk. This is my friend.
But how much joy have we found in our friendship, in sharing and laughter and joking and all our little dance sessions. And I've learned so much from you, and I hope you've learned things from me. But even your bringing in background, babe, like, I will never forget, if you don't mind me sharing.
Sure.
I'll never forget the time you said to me, and you've got Cuban blood amongst other things. You're African American, and you said to me, which I'm sure your fellow black brown counterparts would be like, equally shocked by, where you said, I've never experienced racism in my entire life.
Isn't that wild? Like, I really wasn't. I was a very awkward kid growing up, very awkward. I think I still am, but I got bullied, but everyone that bullied me was either like my skin tone, and it's like, I didn't hate my people, but it was like, why is it? And I would always ask my parents, I'm like, what is it about me? What is it that I do? Why do I get this response? I've always tried to fit in. My mom's like, well, you just don't. It's okay. Like, and from my first boyfriend being Italian, I got people laughed at me for that, and I just didn't understand. It felt like my parents was like, you love whoever you want to love. Like, we support you regardless, So I guess with that, it was really tough to.
When you say different, do you mean more open-minded, less attached to certain stigmas that you otherwise perhaps should have attached to you, kind of thing, like stereotypes? Because I get stereotyped all the time.
Really?
Of course. Like, people look at me and just think my life has been easier. Everything's been handled on a platter. Everything should come to me easily because I'm white, or just even the experience I've had getting treated poorly by black people, often women, where in America, where they've often thought I think I'm like a white American girl, and like often in like if I'm getting elbowed at a bar or like shoved at that stuff's happened to me, right? But when I've opened my mouth and I've heard the accent, it's quite interesting to see the change in treatment and behavior. So I think it's just that long-standing trauma, generational trauma, right? The stigmas that are attached to certain skin colors and things where everybody judges, we're all guilty of judging a book by its cover. There's the famous saying, don't judge a book by its cover. We shouldn't. But I think you have that beautiful, loving nature, and maybe it's to do with your parents, maybe it was to do with the direct environment, maybe it's just your soul and spirit. I don't know. Explain yourself.
I think so. I think so. I think it has to do. And look, I'm not better than anyone. I just feel like I just knew where I come from was not the end all. Like
Yeah.
this wasn't it. Like I was like I never felt like I fit in ever. And I knew that this was not the final stop for me. I was like, I just knew there was something else, but I just, until that, opened up to me, and I was like, yeah, I don't even claim that place. I don't claim it. I
Yeah.
just don't like talk about, I'm like, but when I remember just feeling when I went to California, and I was like, oh, finally, my people, like, this is what
Same.
I've been missing. This like the creative space, the
Yeah.
same like-mindedness that, you can just meet people just here to create and have fun. And I remember calling my parents. I was like, they're
Is
like,
like,
having, this is it. This is it.
yeah.
But yeah, I think like I said, I feel like you have to be a little different, or there's something. It's just certain people who are in the industry or what we do, we're not built like normal society people. Like I don't want a 9 to 5. I don't want the White House and picket fence and the dog and the hut. I don't want that life. I want a little, you know,
Flexibility.
yeah. Like I just,
Does that change for you as you get a little bit older? Hard to crave those in inverted commas like normal 2.0 type things when you're a creative. I mean, of course, if you suddenly got 5 million in the bank, I'm pretty positive you're going to buy a nice house with a picket fence, maybe. You know what I mean? Or maybe brick wall or iron
brick
fence
wall.
and gate, like whatever. Yeah, exactly. But I hear you because I've always felt the same. Like you just haven't wanted or craved the status quo.
Mm. Hmm.
And I don't think a lot of creators necessarily set out craving that. We do what we have to do to get by to survive, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's I think maybe that's also subconsciously and consciously something that we've shared, which is we grew up in places where we never felt we belonged. The second chapter in my book, where it all began, goes into all the reasons, all the catalysts, like all the accumulative experiences I had that wanted to just get me out, like catapult myself out of Australia, out of Adelaide, out of Australia, to be elsewhere, come to LA, again, where freedom of speech is granted and all those different things. But I don't know about you and your experiences, and I write about it in the book. There are a lot of contrived notions and people and things in LA. Like they'll say, LA's got a certain reputation for being a bit of a dog-eat-dog town, superficial, all the bullshit that comes with industry. I mean, I can tell you I've had unequivocally my fair share of experiences of where I'm like, wow, like we come to LA and Hollywood to have that creative freedom and all these different things, yet it also presents so many different challenges. And that's not the case for everybody. A lot of people just, good things come to, and I don't even want to say good people, because a lot of good things come to a hell of a lot of shitty people. And I don't know if it has to do with soul stuff, karma, whatever it might be. I'm really not sure. But I know that in my personal experiences of doing LA and all that, man, oh man, did I have so many experiences that just absolutely broke my heart, broke me down, broke my soul spirit, and all those kinds of things. And so the same place where we're living or operating to gain that freedom and all the things also presents an equal amount of challenge in many respects. And that is the nature of dichotomy in life, where there's light, there's dark, where there's a sun, there's a moon, where there's good, there's bad, where there's ups, there are downs. And there's always that dichotomous polarity, like the balance of scales that often tip way off balance. And I don't know why certain things do or don't happen to or for people. But I think half the time we're just not in control. Sometimes the universe throws a lot of things in our direction because we've got to learn the lessons. They know the universe knows we can handle it or them, and maybe it's for greater good and growth, and for personal evolution, all the things.
Yeah.
You just don't know, but we can only control so much, and the stuff we can control in the grand scheme of things is actually quite little.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, think about it. If we never actually went through anything, it's like, yep, I don't need to learn this lesson. What do you mean? I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. Like, we're not going to be, but that's like you said, we have to have those lessons every level, every step. Like, even when some, like that song, I don't know if it's Jay-Z, is it More Money, More Problems or whatever? There's always
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Even if you get to a comfortable place, you're still going to have to deal with just bigger issues,
Yes, correct.
you
Correct.
know?
And that's why my piano brand antithesis, that's actually about, it's the antithesis of whatever is happening in life. It's like the concept of polarity, yin and yang.
Yeah.
Everything in life is relative. Everything in life is relative. If you actually take the time to sit back and look at things and break things down with that thinking and perspective, to Jay-Z's point, more money, whatever, like, it's all relative. It's all relative. I mean, look at what happened with Johnny Depp. Even the most famous, talented, seemingly down home, fun-loving, whatever people can't escape. And I'm not saying he's entirely innocent. I think they were both guilty in that whole picture because it takes two to
Yeah.
tango,
Right.
which way you look at it. But, not everybody can escape the stuff. Like, I think we all have to face certain things. I don't know why. I think if we all had the answers, we wouldn't be here having this conversation, would we? We would okay, cool, thanks. I've got the answers now. I'm going to check back out and go back to heaven or hell or planet or wherever I'm from, another dimension. But I
Oh
think
man.
we're just all little spiritual beings having a human experience, and
Right.
I think that's just part of like moving through the stuff, all the controversies we face. But it's been fun to write about all the crazy things that I went through in LA.
I
That's
bet. I bet
quite
it
fun.
has. I'm
Yeah.
excited for you. I'm excited to read it. I wish you all the best. I'm sure it's going to be amazing experience for yourself. Like, this is like this is your baby almost, right? 10 years. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So, can't wait to
Thank
look up
you.
and say bestseller. I'm like, oh snap.
I just need a damn good lawyer to protect me from the prospective defamation lawsuits I'm going to be facing.
Girl.
All that stuff. So I'm waiting to be able to connect with or hear from a publisher or someone in LA. Someone's going to read the book surely eventually, but hopefully, yeah, I don't know how that stuff all works, but I'm pretty positive you need a good publisher to make sure that you've got all your I's dotted, T's crossed, all the things to mitigate that stuff.
Whew. Yeah.
But
You'll be fine.
I
You'll be
do
fine.
reveal a few little goodies.
I'm
But
excited. I'm excited for you.
yeah,
So I'd love to ask this. This is like a last question. I promise I won't. But every guest that comes on, and there's no right or wrong answer, but just wondering what your answer would be. Would you rather have respect, or would you rather have loyalty?
that's a great bloody question. Um, Respect is obviously really, really, really important.
Mm,
But I, being a Taurian and just who I am as an individual, I'm not necessarily saying it's entirely aligned with being a Taurus, but I do know that loyalty is really important. If you're going to look at the star signs and all the stuff, loyalty is very, very important to a Taurus, for example. I'd have to say loyalty probably comes up more for me, and I'm like fiercely loyal with people I love, and I've been 100% loyal to a fault on many occasions in many areas of my life. But I would say loyalty, because when people are disrespectful Often it's a reflection of how they feel about themselves. A lot of people are often projecting. They could be threatened by you, intimidated by you. They could want something from you and you're not giving it to them, and therefore they're disrespectful. So at the end of the day, human beings are far from perfect. We're always going to make mistakes. And a lot of us are going to be disrespectful without meaning to or realizing. But I think at the end of the day, loyalty is definitely probably the most important thing for me.
All right. That's a great answer. Great answer. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming on and talking
you.
with us.
I'm glad that we
Yeah, of
finally did
course.
this, Nemo.
I know. Five years later.
Yeah, only 5 years.
You're
I was
so
like, 5 years.
no, you're so busy, dude. You're so busy.
No,
We'll have to do this again.
yes, of course. We've got to build upon this conversation. We need to do part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I can't count beyond that.
Well, I'm excited to read that book. You're like, I can't count.
You're like, can you even spell if you can't count? I don't know. Yet to be seen. Yet to be seen. Yet to
Coming
be
soon.
seen.
Um,
Nowhere near you.
um,
Yeah.
right. Right. Where can people find you on social media to follow all the things that you're doing?
A good place to start is just at Georgii Speakman. So it's just my full name being Georgii Speakman, Speakman. So that's on Twitter and Instagram. And then, there's on Instagram, there's My American Dream book, but it's also in the bio on my personal stuff too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. And
Thank you.
thank
I
you all for
appreciate you. I love
anytime. I love
you.
you too.
Yeah.
And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh.